and today I am punching a bag. Hi BookTube, it's Marianne at We Last Read a Book, and today we are looking at my TBR for the Kindle Clearout Readathon. I will put the links to the announcement from Jenn at the Book Refuge down in the description box. The Kindle Clearout Readathon runs from the 13th to the 19th of March, and because it's only a week long, I decided that I was going to keep it small. But then I was putting the TBR together, I ended up with 7 books, which means I need to read a whole book a day. And while that might not seem like much to other people, for me that is quite a lot. And I'm pretty sure that week is the week that the kids go back to school. And I think that might also be the week that I go back to work. So I don't know if we're going to finish these. We're going to try. So the first book I will be reading for the readathon is Once Upon a Dream by Simone. This is a collection of 3 novellas that are based on kind of fairy tales. The first novella in the collection is The 12 Dancing Princesses, and we have Cal, who is a private investigator, and Tamsin, who is a dancer, and Cal is trying to find out where Tamsin and her 12 dancing princesses go at night, and he finds out she has secrets and he's not going to reveal them. That's all I know. The next novella in the collection is American Witch, which is a Princess and the Pea retelling, I believe. I'm sure it is. And we have Morgan, who is at a masquerade ball. She meets the guy, insta-lust, and I don't know any more of the plot. The third novella in the collection is Red and White, which is a Snow White based story. And we have Scarlet, who is snowed in with her best friend, and all of a sudden a man arrives at the door and they let him in and they try to heat him up. The next book I'm reading for the readathon is The Roommate by Rosie, Dannon, and I already mentioned this in my March TBR, which I will include the link to where I talk about it. But basically it is a forced proximity romance with a porn star and a socialite, and I am absolutely buzzed to read it. The next book I am reading for the readathon, I'm also reading for the Indigenous Readalong, which is hosted by Bethany at Beautifully Bookish Bethany and Michelle at Thor Wants Another Letter. I'll put links to their announcement videos as well, where they have all the information and all of the books that are going to be read every month for this read-along. So the book is Heartbeat Braves by Pamela Sanderson. So we have Rayanne, who works in a Native American sort of community centre type place, and they end up with a new leader who takes her project off of her and gives it to his nephew Henry, and Henry doesn't really want to do it. So Henry and Rayanne end up working together because there is some crisis at the centre. I imagine that working together during this crisis is going to bring the two of them together, and they're going to feel all the feels, and it's going to be wonderful. What I did notice when I was on Goodreads was apparently at the end of this it's not a cliffhanger, but there is bits that need tied up, so I'll need to read the second book in the series. The next book I'm going to be reading is something that is quite special to me. If you have spoke to me about romance books, you'll know that I am always on the lookout for romances with representation of epilepsy and neurological conditions. So the next book that I'm going to be reading for the readathon is Relatively Normal by Elaine Babich. And this is a YA book. And it's about a girl called Caitlin who has recently overcame an eating disorder, and she is then diagnosed with epilepsy. And the story is basically her trying to navigate friendships and relationships and deal with and come to terms with her own body image whilst experiencing a new disorder / disease that she's been diagnosed with, without slipping back towards her eating disorder. And so I'm looking forward to seeing the epilepsy representation in YA, because when I was first diagnosed, I had my first seizure when I was 5, and continued to have seizures, and then didn't receive a formal diagnosis until I was 11. So this was being explored for 6 years before they confirmed, yeah, by the way, this is why your brain is not working. And there was absolutely no representation there whatsoever. Anytime that I had seen a seizure on TV, it was on programs like Casualty and ER and stuff like that, and it was adults. So I never really got to see myself as a teenager growing up in fiction. And like I said in my February wrap up when I was talking about Get a Life Chloe Brown, with a chronic illness, there are other dynamics added into a romantic relationship and into friendships and into familial relationships. And maybe if I had seen this representation when I was younger and grown up, I would have had like a vague idea of how romantic relationships and familial relationships and friendships can be affected by these things. So yeah, it'll be interesting to read. The next book I'll be reading for the readathon is Take a Hint, Danny Brown by Tyler Haber. This is the second book in the Brown Sisters series. I already talked about Get a Life Chloe Brown in my February wrap up, and also talked about this book in my TBR. So I'm not going to go into too much detail. This is about Danny Brown, which is Chloe's sister. She ends up in a fake dating relationship with a co-worker, which then blossoms from there. Like I said, I talked about it more in my March TBR, so I will put the link for the March TBR there. And the last book I'll be reading for the readathon is Reaching Rosie by Cara J. Morris. This is an ARC that I received on NetGalley. It is a memoir. It explores when Cara finds out that her daughter is on the autistic spectrum and she has to raise money to be able to seek specialist treatment. So she has to reach, I think it's between $15,000 and $20,000, or a number along those, or a number within that margin. And she gets together with friends to brainstorm how they're going to raise this money. And her friends suggest doing a burlesque / striptease type show to raise money, and it snowballs from there. And then they sort of go from just this small community trying to raise money for Cara's daughter to spreading autism awareness around the world. I think that's going to be quite a heartwarming memoir to read. It's the only non-fiction book that I have in this list. So those are the 7 books that I am hoping to finish on the week beginning the 13th of March. Whether I actually manage that or not is a whole other question. But am I going to try? You're damn right, I sure as hell am. So who else is taking part in the Kindle Clearout Readathon? What are you reading? Are you doing the 9 grid? Are you doing the 16 grid? Tell me what you're reading. And I will speak to you guys later. So stay safe, happy reading, and I'll speak to you later. Bye!